Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the Q1FY26 updates of the jewelry space. Now here there are two companies that has come out with its updates. One is Senko Gold and Diamonds and the other one is Kalyan Jewelers. Okay, so first let's talk about Senko Gold and Diamonds. Now when you look at the first thing, when you look at the business update, what is the first thing that catches your eyes? That is the sales growth, right? And you see that the sales growth has grown by 28% Q1 over Q1. Okay. Now here is the thing, when you look at Senko ka result, right, you might feel like, oh wow, the pace of growth has gone up, because if you look at Senko, it used to be an 18 to 20% ka growth engine, guidance bhi वैसा ही था, and they also execute in the same range, right? That is one thing. So the first time, you might feel ki like, after a very long time, I would say there was this one quarter where they grew 40%, but after that it has been a lull period only for them. And for the first time, you see, in a very long time, especially after a year, you might feel like, one, they have overachieved the guidance. The second, you might think, the pace of growth has gone up for Senko Gold and Diamond. Okay. Now, before we go into this, like, there's one thing, if you guys remember when I was talking about, in the what to expect for Q1 of FY26, when I did that video, we spoke about, there are many companies, jiska Q1 and Q2, basically H1 of FY26, it might look like, exaggerated, or, you might feel like, the sales number that is there, has gone up, the pace of growth has gone up, you might feel that way. Why? Because if you look at the last Q1 and Q2, that is Q1 and Q2 of FY25 or H1 of FY25, if you look, we had several events that happened over there. The first event, if you guys, let's just rewind back in the past and see. Okay, there are two main events happened. One is obviously the heat waves. We had terrible heat waves, we had very harsh summers, right? Now, how is summer related to, to the entire, how do I put this, entire jewelry space? As you know, jewelry is a high ticket item. So what do you do when you go to, when you're buying a high ticket item? Most of the jewelry that is there in India, it happens via stores, not via e-commerce or, any sort of online channels, but most happens by walking in and purchasing it. ठीक है? And Q1 में क्या होता है थोड़ा तो, one is, the festivities are less. Last Q1 में we had Eid. Okay, that was the only festival, little bit of Akshay Tritiya. Other than that, if you see, there are two kinds of walk-ins, right? Like, one is if you have to buy the festival walk-ins, where you have to do the purchase irrespective of whatever the situation it is. And the second is the daily purchase that you do, or, the daily wear purchase. And we saw, because of this heat waves and everything, right, we saw a lot of walk-ins drop to the jewelry stores. This was one thing. Okay. And the second one was elections. Now, how is elections related to this? Because as you know, when you talk about gold also, there are different kind of purchases that you do. Some people might buy gold via schemes, right? जो अपना yearly scheme करते हैं, and then they go to redeem it. Second is cash, and card and various other sources. Now, cash में क्या होते हैं? Whenever you know that elections are happening, there are various checkpoints, and police is there, and you have this rule, right, that 50,000 says zyada you can't carry wherever you're going. You need to have all these documents and everything. Now, obviously, if someone is doing that cash say payment, right, let's say they're doing more than 50,000 ka jewelry, again those people ka bhi, aane jana band ho gaya. So walk-ins that is there really dropped, especially for, in Q1. Now, iska impact kisko zyada pada? For Senko, because if you look at the last Q1, right, that is Q1 of FY25, Senko ko base hi kuch nahi tha. Senko ka base was 8, hardly anything. In fact, if you see Q1 over Q1 in FY25, Senko ka sales grew hardly by 8%. So when you see this 28% ka growth rate, please understand there is a base effect in the place, right? Because the base was so low in the last year, that is of Q1 of FY25. Anything with respect to that base, that is also one of the reasons you can tell isko itna bada, shayad push mila, 28% ka, itna push mila. Because if you look at the other companies that are there, even Kalyan also for that matter, which usually grows by 35-40%. Last time, if you remember, in Q1, even that grew by 26%, and Senko was the worst at that time. It grew by 8%. I believe Titan grew by 12 or 14%, in, because of this entire heat waves, elections ka issue. Okay? So this is one thing you need to consider. The second thing over here, if you see, Senko ka aur ek cheez hai, along with Q1 mein we have Akshay Tritiya, right? There is this one festival that is celebrated in West Bengal called as, Poila Baisha. Okay? Now, in this, again, as you know, Senko ka main market, the core market is West Bengal, right? A huge part of the revenue comes from there. So obviously this also aids to that one-time kind of growth, what you can expect in this quarter. So I would say these both are few factors that are there that has probably given that 28% ka push, for the company. Okay. Then the next thing is SSG. Now the SSG is quite strong. I'm really surprised about it. SSG is by 19%. Again, I wonder if this SSG will be sustainable or not, but this is one thing that I'm really happy about कि उसका SSG बढ़ गया, उसका pace of growth भी बढ़ गया है, ठीक है. Now the last thing I want to talk about over here with respect to Senko is, although Senko is doing really well right now, right? Let's say it's got 28% growth that is there. Maybe the base effect from last year is very, let's say कल आके management बोल ही सकता है ना कॉन कॉल में, शायद that base effect was minimal. Actually जो भी यहाँ पे growth आया है, it has come both from volume growth as well as value growth. Let's say if that happens, even if that does happen, the 28% kind of growth, what becomes very difficult for Senko to make money for its shareholders is, you have other 2-3 players that are there in this space, right? We have Kalyan, we have Gadgil Jewelers, and we have Titan. Now you have to grow at a faster rate compared to the other 3 players that are there in order for you to make money for your shareholders. So that is a catch over here. Although it is doing really well compared to what it had done in the past, the question is, one, will this growth rate be sustainable? Will this 28% growth rate be sustainable, or is it mostly coming from that base effect that is there? And the second thing we also have to consider is, can it beat the other people in this space? Okay. If you look at the showrooms also, they've launched totally 9 showrooms. The target is to open 20 stores every year, and I'm really surprised over here also, literally half of the store count that is there has been finished in Q1 itself, right? So maybe if they come and revise the store guidance, extremely well and good. Now there is another catch over here is, I do not know if you guys remember this, in the month of April or May, these people had acquired, I wouldn't say acquired, I do not know what is the right term, but the license to manage the franchisees, the stores of Melora Group. Now I do not know I do not know what has been the status of the deal after that happened, because this happened literally after Q1 ka call, I suppose. So no clue if that Melora ka effect, them managing Melora ka stores, if that also has any effect to this 28% kind of growth. That is also another clarity we need to get. If Melora ka, if Melora has joined into the consolidated part of the revenue, although I suppose it isn't, because if they are managing Melora ka stores right now, if it has been added to the Q1 ka revenue, I think they would have mentioned it in updates. Since it is not mentioned, I'm assuming that Melora ka deal hasn't yet gone through, and it is not adding to the Q1 ka numbers. And the second company that we will do is Kalyan Jewelers. Now Kalyan ka agar aap dekhte ho, if you look at the sales grew by 31%. If you look at SSG is 18%. Now that is another thing. Senko ka also, if you see, SSG is around 19%. Even Kalyan ka is also in the same range. Here is the thing, right? Two things with Kalyan. One, Kalyan used to grow at 35-40%. So thoda sa, it is not a doubt ki, like, thoda little bit at least the pace of growth has come down for Kalyan. Jo 35-40% se grow kar raha tha, abhi 31% mein hai. The second thing is the Senko, which is the least interesting player in the space all until this while, until Q4. Abhi usne bhi 28% ka grow kiya, and Kalyan used to be the number one player, in the last Q4. Now Q4 se agar main Q1 ka compare karu, the gap between Kalyan and Senko is very less. Earlier, if you see, Senko used to be like a 20% kind of growth engine. Kalyan used to be 35-40, literally almost, you can tell almost double grow kar raha tha with respect to Senko. But right now, if you see, the gap between both Kalyan and Senko has become way less. Mota moti to same here, 28 and 31%. SSG is also the same over here. So this puts a lot of pressure on Kalyan ka stock right now. The other thing is Kalyan ka showroom also. They had a plan to launch 170 showrooms, right? 75 Kalyan ka showrooms and 80 Candor ka showrooms. They've opened 10 Kalyan ka showrooms, 9 in India and 1 in the US, and they've opened around 8 Candor ka showrooms. Now it might look like inka jo store opening hai, it is quite less, because Senko has opened 9 stores out of the target that is at 20 to 25 stores, and Kalyan has opened hardly any. But here is the thing, with Kalyan also, if you see, they open a lot of stores right before Diwali, okay? Because see, if they open a store right now, and Q2, if you see, right, Q2 is like a rainy season, and rainy season mein kya hota hai, and also in the month of Q2 we have this I do not know, the Ashada period that is there, which you find it's an inauspicious time to buy jewelry, conduct weddings and everything, right? So what happens is that time walk-ins drop, it is the leanest quarter. Now agar aap Q1 pe showroom open karte ho, then the 3 months it becomes a laggard for that store. So that is why most of the stores that is there is opened right before Diwali, during that between that Q2 and that Q3 ka months. That is when it is open. So it becomes fruitful, it becomes it picks up the same store sales growth and everything, it becomes profitable or breaks even very quickly, okay? But having said that, over here now the game is this, okay? One, Senko ka pace of growth has gone up, okay? That is undeniable over here. But having said that, the biggest question is this pace of growth sustainable or not, okay? Again, why? Because last year the base was very low, and then there is this West Bengal Cup festival that is there that gives it a huge push, right? So these are the two things, two things to consider for Senko when the result comes and the con call comes. Whereas with Kalyan over here, क्या हुआ? Kalyan, which used to be the number one player, इसका and Senko का gap जो है, and Senko was a fourth player in the space, right? And now you see the first player and the fourth player are growing at the same rate, right? Kalyan का थोड़ा pace of growth तो कम हो चुका है यहाँ पे, there is no denying, and we have another player which is PN Gadgil Jewelers. If PN Gadgil Jewelers over here comes right now, with like a 40% kind of growth rate, especially in their retail sales, don't check for consolidated sales, by the way, when you're checking for PNGJ ka update. If unka agar retail sales grows by a very faster pace, right, like faster than Kalyan, that will put even more pressure. Already to ek pressure hai that you're growing at the almost at a similar rate as Senko, which was a fourth player. Now, if somebody else is growing, way above than you, then it becomes, thoda sa, it becomes a lagard for Kalyan. It puts Kalyan in too much pressure right now. Another thing I think, again, this is my assumption, I do not know if it is right or not, because Kalyan ka, again, there are two components. One is a Middle East component and the other one is the India business. Middle East business grew 26%. Again, Kalyan has a lot of, pan India presence right now, but also from the in the southern part of India, that is in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, they also have a huge presence over here. And यहाँ पे Eid and all, again, the Muslim population is a bit higher. Eid is celebrated, very grandly. So what happened is, again, same as apparel space that we discussed. Eid was last time in Q4. Eid was last time in Q1. This time Eid is in Q4. So who knows? Maybe Eid ka sales, got racked up in Q4 and maybe not in Q1. And maybe you're coming off a high base in Q1 because of this Eid. Maybe that's what also affected the pace of growth. And maybe pace of growth has actually not come down, but because of this Eid ka situation, maybe this 31% ka growth is there. That is also one thing to consider with Kalyan, I would say, right? Unlike Senko ka thing. But having said that, still it is not, I mean, it's obviously a situation where it's not, it's, you can't deny the fact that iska yahan pe thoda sa pace of growth but kam ho chuka hai. And the most important thing, agar wahan pe PNGJ continues to grow faster than Kalyan, the valuation ka re-rating can happen very 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 quickly over there, right? Valuation ka re-rating can happen, and with PNGJ, and that can put Kalyan at a pressure. Another thing is that only now Kalyan is growing. Kalyan was the first player. Senko is at a much cheaper valuation. So if somebody finds that that the first player and the last player is growing at the same pace, and the last player is at a decent valuation compared to the first person in the race, then obviously the money will flow to the fourth player. That is what happens. So that is the thing over here. Let us wait for the PNGJ update. Let us see how they have done. I think that would be very interesting to see. And also Titan, because I don't know if Titan can grow at this rate, 28% kind of growth rate. I don't know if Titan can do, considering its base effect. That is one thing. But I'm really hoping, I'm really looking forward to Senko ka call and to see what they have to tell, if the Melora ka stores are there or not, if if it is adding to the revenue, and how if the low base of Senko from last year, if it has contributed or not. Because I really hope this Senko ka growth is sustainable. It is not a one time thing that is happening over here. And that's it, guys, for today's video. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.